This video covers the 2025-2026 ball handling rule change for high school volleyball. We'll present the new rule, explain when and where the rule change applies, and show scenarios and videos to further understanding of the rule and promote consistent application of the rule throughout the season. So let's take a look at the new rule. 948C is, on its face, fairly simple. Multiple contacts on the second team hit are permitted if the ball is next contacted by a teammate. Let's dive into that a little bit more and look at some key points. This new rule only applies to a team's second hit and a situation with multiple contacts. There are three key takeaways from this. Multiple contacts on the second team hit are not immediately illegal, so we're not going to whistle right away. Instead, we need to wait to see what happens next before whistling a fault. Another thing to consider is this is not limited to multiple contacts using a setting motion. Any multiple contact situation on a team's second hit falls under this rule. The rule talks about multiple contacts, so first we need to make sure that we are all on the same page relative to various ball handling terms. Illegal hits are cases where the ball visibly comes to rest, such as a catch or throw, or where there are prolonged contacts. Successive contacts occur when there are two or more separate attempts or playing action by the same player without any intervening contact by someone else. An example of this would be when a player swings at the ball and moments later swings again at the ball. In this example, the ball bounces around and eventually contacts the side of the attacker, who then takes another swing at the ball after that. This is an example of successive contacts. Neither of those are affected by this new rule. Multiple contacts are a situation where there is more than one contact by a single player during one attempt to play the ball. An example of multiple contacts would be a set that's mishandled or a hard-driven ball that bounces off a player's arms and then their shoulder. So let's look at how this will work in practice. A player who makes multiple contacts on the team's second hit will never immediately be whistled for a double hit fault. In this case, the first referee will need to wait to see what happens with the ball. This is similar to a potential illegal back row attack situation, where the first referee needs to see if the attack is completed before whistling a fault. We'll group the things that may happen after the multiple contacts into three main categories. First, if the next player to touch the ball is a teammate, or we have legal simultaneous contact with the ball by a teammate and an opponent, then no double hit is called and play continues. Second, if the ball is legally contacted by an opponent or completely crosses the net untouched, then we whistle the play dead and call the double hit fault. Third, if there is another fault that happens before the contact by an opponent or teammate, such as a net fault, then that fault takes precedence over the potential double hit and becomes the result of the rally. It's important to note that a potential multiple contacts double hit call on the second hit does not impact other faults that may have been called. Let's take a look at a couple of examples involving back row players in the front zone. If that back row player has multiple contacts on the team's second hit on a ball completely above the height of the net, that should alert us to the possibility of an illegal back row attack call. In this first example, the ball enters the plane of the net and is simultaneously contacted by both an opponent and a teammate. We know from before that this simultaneous contact negates the potential double hit fault. However, it has no effect on the back row attack play, and thus we call an illegal back row attack. In the second example, again, the back row player has multiple contacts on the second ball that's completely above the height of the net, but here the ball crosses the net untouched. We know from before that this would be a double hit fault, but there also is an illegal back row attack. In these situations, the other fault, the non-double hit fault, takes precedence, so in this case we would signal an illegal back row attack. So let's look at a few scenarios to illustrate the new rule and how it should be applied. First scenario, team A number 9 attempts to set her team's second hit and has multiple contacts. The ball is next attacked by a teammate. In this case, the ruling is no fault. The first person to touch the ball after the multiple contacts was a teammate, and that wipes out the potential double hit fault, and we play on. Here we'll see a couple of examples. In each case, the team's second hit is an attempted set by the setter that is mishandled. Since we have multiple contacts, but the ball is next touched by a teammate, there is no fault and we play on. In the second scenario, the team A player attempts to set her team's second hit and has multiple contacts. The ball drifts into the plane of the net and is blocked out of bounds by an opponent. In this case, the ruling is a double hit fault on Team A. After the multiple contacts on Team A's second hit, the ball was next legally contacted by an opponent. At that point, we whistle and signal the double hit fault. In this video, since there are multiple contacts on the team's second hit, as soon as the ball is touched by the block, the play is whistled dead and a double hit fault is called. In this scenario, Team A number 9 attempts to set her team's second hit and has multiple contacts. The ball is heading towards her teammate, A number 3, but is blocked while completely on Team A's side of the net, thus preventing her teammate from making a legitimate play on the ball. In this case, although the Team B blocker did touch the ball next, the block was not a legal play since it prevented a legitimate attack by Team A number 3. This interference results in a reaching over the net fault on Team B and takes precedence over the potential double hit by Team A. Team A number 9 attempts to set her team's second hit and has multiple contacts. The ball enters the plane of the net and is simultaneously contacted by both a teammate, A number 3, and an opponent, B number 1. Even though there was simultaneous contact between an opponent and a teammate, it's considered that the teammate did touch the ball next, thus there is no fault and we play on. In our next scenario, the Team A setter has multiple contacts on her second hit. The ball heads over the net and is next played by an opponent. In this case, as soon as the ball completely passes the vertical plane of the net, the play is whistled dead for a double hit call on the setter. After the multiple contacts on the team's second hit, as soon as the ball completely crosses the plane of the net, we whistle the play dead and call the double hit fault. In this second video, that occurs even before the blocker touches the ball. In our next scenario, the Team A setter again has multiple contacts on the team's second hit. As the ball approaches the plane of the net, the blocker contacts the net before blocking the ball. In this case, since the net contact happened before the opponent blocked the ball, the net fault takes precedence over the potential double hit, and we call a net fault on Team B. Remember, if there's any fault before the opponent touches the ball, that fault takes precedence. Here we can see that the blocker clearly contacts the net, so in spite of the multiple contacts on the setter, the net fault is called on the blocking team. This next scenario is similar to the previous one with one important difference. Again, the Team A setter sets her team's second hit with multiple contacts. As the ball enters the plane of the net, the opponent blocks the ball and then contacts the net on the way down to the ground. Unlike the previous scenario, in this case the opponent touches the ball first before hitting the net. Since the first player to contact the ball after the multiple contacts was an opponent, in this case we call the double hit fault on Team A, and the net contact afterwards is irrelevant. Unlike the previous video, in this case the blocker touches the ball before hitting the net, and thus the double hit call is made on the setter. In this scenario, we have a different situation. Team A player shanks the team's first hit towards a teammate. The ball bounces off that teammate's forearms, hits her shoulder, and bounces high in the air in quick succession. A third teammate attacks the ball across the net to the opponent's side. Since the ball quickly bounced off Team A number 15's forearms and then hit her shoulder, this is an example of multiple contacts. as it was the team's second hit and the next play on the ball was by a teammate, there is no fault. Remember, there's nothing in the rule that says that the multiple contacts have to be during a setting action, only that they occur on the team's second hit. In the next scenario, the Team A libero sets her team's second hit while in the front zone. Unfortunately, she mishandles it and has multiple contacts. The ball enters the plane of the net and is simultaneously contacted by both a teammate and an opponent. Similar to the illegal back row attack call we discussed before, here, while we have simultaneous contact that negates the double hit fault, it has no effect on the illegal attack from the libero set. Since the libero used overhand finger action while in the front zone, and the next play was by a teammate, and that attack was completed, this results in the illegal attack call. While this may seem somewhat confusing, it's important to keep in mind what has and hasn't changed. Most of the ball handling calls that we make are unchanged, so let's take a look. Illegal hits such as catches and throws are always illegal. That is unchanged from the previous rule. Successive contacts, where there are two or more separate attempts or actions playing the ball, are only legal in a few situations. When there have been simultaneous contacts by teammates, simultaneous contacts by opposing players, or successive contacts where the first contact is a block and then the second contact counts as the team's first hit. That is unchanged from the previous rule. So then we come to multiple contacts, which are two or more separate contacts during a single attempt to play the ball. For blocking, this is legal and there is no change. For the team's first hit, also legal and also no change. On the team's second hit, this is where we have a change and we have to wait and see. We'll dive into that in just a second. On the team's third hit, this is illegal. Multiple contacts cannot be made on the team's third hit. That is unchanged from the previous rule. So let's look at the second hit. We need to see what happened next. If the ball is next contacted by a teammate, it's legal and we play on. If the ball is next legally contacted by an opponent, then we call the illegal double hit. If the ball goes over the net untouched, we also call the illegal double hit. If some other fault happens before any of the above occur, then we call that other fault, and that takes precedence over the illegal double hit. Here are some things to keep in mind. Many of our coaches, officials, players, and fans have been used to the previous double hit rule for quite a while. When this was implemented at the college level, it took a little while for people to adjust, and likely the same thing will happen at the high school level. So let's be patient with each other. There will be some misunderstandings, and there will be some mistakes. Let's show some grace and humility as we all adjust to the new rule. Coaches, please help teach the players and fan base about the new rule. And officials, if you mistakenly blow the whistle, call a replay if it's warranted, and don't try and cover it up by changing the call to an illegal hit. We hope this was informative and provided you with some valuable information about the new rule change. Have a great season.